folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be my Contemporary-A-Thon wrap-up. I ended up reading 6 books, starting my 7th for Contemporary-A-Thon, and I figured because my monthly wrap-ups are typically pretty long and hard to edit that I would do sort of my wrap-up for Contemporary-A-Thon here. That way at the end of the month I don't have to have like a 30-minute video. So the first book that I read is My Friend Dahmer by Durf. I know. This is a graphic novel following the teenage life of Jeffrey Dahmer. This was really interesting, and I gave it a 5-star because I found a lot more information in this than I thought I would. I like to think that I know a lot about Jeffrey Dahmer's case and his life and sort of why he became a really horrific serial killer, but there were things in this that I definitely didn't know. Were things in this that I was like, oh wow, like kind of was like really creepy or really sort of telling into why he became that person. For me, going into this, I just learned more than I thought I was going to, which I thought was really cool. In the back, actually, there is a glossary that explains each individual frame, almost in the graphic novel, and what the source material is. So if you really wanted to find more information about a certain part of his life that you see in the book, you can kind of go back and follow that source material, which is really interesting. There is a movie made about this, and I didn't know this, but they actually shot the movie at Jeffrey Dahmer's old house, like in the actual house. I need to watch this movie like immediately. So I found this really interesting, really good. I love the art style, and so I gave this 5 out of 5. This completed the challenge to read a contemporary graphic novel. It's also dark and taboo. Next, I read Saints and Misfits by S.K. Ali. This follows a Muslim teenage girl who, trigger warning, has had some sexual assault happen to her, and the boy that did it is really well known and liked and popular within the community, and it's talking about how she is dealing with that. Basically, I ended up giving this book a 3. I didn't like it as much as I liked Love, Hate, and Other Filters, which has Muslim representation as well. I found this one was a little bit more difficult to follow, at least for me, and I have asked about the representation in this book and was told that it's maybe not the best. I can't speak on that. Would have to read it and find out if the representation is accurate. My issue with this was that there were just too many characters, and it was sort of hard to follow all the different subplots that were going on. The one major plot line didn't really come to a head until the very end of the book, so you're left with 300 pages in the middle with other things that to me were character building but weren't exactly important to like the final plot, I guess. I just expected a little bit more out of this, so I ended up giving it a 3. I still really liked it. I do recommend it. It just wasn't quite as good as other books with a similar premise that I've read recently. So this completes the challenge to read a book with pink on the cover, also a hyped book, a diverse book, a dark and contemporary, and a book that was recommended to me. So this was one that I was definitely going to read. Happy I read, and it did a lot of the challenges. Next, during the week, I read Little in Line by Brandy Colbert. This was also amazing, and this was recommended to me by Chelsea. I really like this as well. So this follows Suzette, who is bisexual and sort of figuring that out for herself, and she also has a brother who is dealing heavily with mental illness and bipolar disorder. It follows the sort of the friendships that they make, the relationships that they make, and then the struggle just having that family dynamic, I guess, and all the things that sort of can come from that. This was a beautiful book. I absolutely love this. I'm so happy that Chelsea really recommends this because it is stunning and I really liked it. So this completed the challenge for pink on the cover. Also a hyped book, a diverse book, a sort of dark and taboo with like the mental illness sort of aspect, and also a book that was recommended to me. Next in the week, I decided to switch it up and do something that I have a little bit of like familiarity with, to read the final book in the Deanna Madden trilogy. This is If You Dare by A.R. Torr, and this just wraps up everything that's going on with Deanna. So I don't want to give any spoilers because by this point in the series, you know what happened in the other 2 books. so I can't really say too much, but I ended up giving this a 4. I didn't care for the format in this one as much as I did the other 2 books. It sort of jumps around from timeline, and I kind of like more of like a linear timeline. That being said, I was really happy with how it wrapped up. I liked the characters, and I liked sort of where it ended up, so I was pretty happy with this, but I gave it a 4. The other 2 books in the series were both 5s. So this completed Read a Dark and Taboo Contemporary, and also a book that was recommended to me because Julie from Pages and Pen sent me the whole series, so I read them all and I loved them, and I want other people to read them now, so I might end up letting a couple of my friends read them because they're really good. Then after that, I read One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was, again, suggested to me by Chelsea, who basically suggests the author as somebody everyone should read. So this book made me cry for about 3 hours straight. I have not cried this hard at a book, I think, since Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. I don't know, something about this just hit me in all of the places, and I fucking bawled my face off. So this follows Emma, and it follows her from about her mid-20s to early 30s, which is my age range. I just turned 29, so I get it. She has this beautiful life with her high school sweetheart husband, and they get married. It's cute. I cried. Then he sort of ends up presumed dead or missing. I cried at that as well. Then it talks about her grief, losing her husband, bawled my face off because, again, I'm also recently married, so I was just like, freaking out. It's really easy to put myself in this character. She wears the exact same red lipstick that I do from MAC that I wore for years that, like, people knew was, like, my lipstick, so, like, the second the book said that, I was like, this bitch is me, this is me. But yeah, it talks about her grief, how she moves on from that, and then she meets another person who she is in love with, and then her husband comes back. This is all in the back, so this isn't a spoiler. I know exactly what you're getting into, but the last sort of half of the book is her dealing with the emotions of having both a fiance and her husband, and I cried a lot, like snot pouring out of my face. I loved it. I gave this a 5. You can tell I had a good week. I gave a lot of things like really good high ratings because I was just picking good stuff and picking stuff that I was in the mood to read and that I knew was going to be good for me at the time, and this one definitely was. This met the challenge of a hyped book as well as a book that was recommended to me. At the time, this was my most recently acquired, but of course I got another one that I read, which I'll just move into, and that is Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. This is beautiful. This might be my favorite cover, one of my favorite covers of the whole year. The second that I saw this, I didn't even care like what it was about. I knew I was gonna get it because this woman is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. Ooh, I'm getting some sun. So this book is super diverse in so many ways. I'm gonna try to list all of them because it's a lot and it's actually really amazing. So this follows the story of Alice, who is biromantic, asexual, and African American, who develops a relationship with her Asian American coworker. There's also a bunch of really amazing friendships in this, and it focuses a lot on sort of found families, like what it means to have a friend group that is basically your family. Talks all about how she's working through what it means to be asexual, how she describes that to potential partners, past partners. So there's a lot of talks about that, and then also her moving out and going to university, in that it is labeled as a YA book, but she's actually 19, 20, you know, is moved out, going to university. However, she reads very much like a 16-year-old. I just think that she reads young, which is, you know, makes sense for YA, but that kind of just took me out of the fact that she is, you know, working, going to university, is 20. Just the fact that she reads very, very young. That was just a negative in terms of the writing, but the actual plot itself and the diversity and everything in it was really good. So I ended up rating this a 4. It would have been a 5, I think, if the writing just put her to where it felt like a 19-year-old. And then this finished the challenge of my most recently acquired contemporary, a diverse book, and a book that was recommended to me as well. So those were the 6 books that I finished for the week. I believe that's all the challenges. I think it better be, because a bunch of them overlapped. Also, I started but didn't finish Difficult Women by Roxane Gay. That is a short story collection, and I'm still reading through it. It's just a lot of them are very heavy, and you kind of have to think about them, so I can't just sit and read 100 pages of hard-hitting short stories. For Contemporary-A-Thon, those were the 6 books that I read. Found a couple new favorites. I cried, I laughed, I was weirded out. It was all good. I do hope everyone is doing good, and until my next video, I will talk to all of you soon. Bye!